Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss The Crow, City of Angels, starring Vincent Perez, Mia Kirshner, Richard Brooks, and Iggy Pop, directed by Tim Pope. Now, I did watch this, well, as with the other movies, except for the new one, I have watched this before earlier this year, and what do I think of it? Well, let's get into it and we'll find out. The opening credits roll, and we start off with Ashe Corvin, played by Vincent Perez, being thrown in the water along with his 8-year-old son in Los Angeles. And a crow flies over buildings as we get some narration by Sarah as we get introduced to Sarah, played this time by Mia Kirshner, along with the white cat as she introduced herself to a little girl named Grace and walks her to a restaurant. And I guess this movie is shot in LA, but it looks bad for LA as we get the movie's bad guy, Judah Earl, played by Richard Brooks, having cameras on the person he's going to kill, who happens to be, I don't know, priest or what the fuck. I was confused by this movie. I'm just going to say it right now. And this movie looks much worse than the original as far as the cinematography is concerned, in my opinion. Sarah is a tattoo artist, and she gives a gift from his mentor, and I guess is who this time is, as Sarah says, she's been having these dreams, which is why she can't sleep as of lately, and she's visited by the same crow as Eric from the last movie, but this time it's Ashe being resurrected, and the acting in this doesn't feel believable whatsoever, as it was sometimes painful to listen to. And Sarah wakes Ashe as she tells him she dreamed about him, and Ashe becomes the crow while he runs out of the building. And Vincent Perez is no Brandon Lee. Despite he was terrible in the last movie, but Perez is much worse than the iconic version of Brandon Lee, as he has flashbacks to where he was killed along with his 8-year-old son, again and again, I'll say, who witnessed a murder from Curve, played by Iggy Pop, and these flashbacks were unnecessary. Were necessary, let me rephrase that, but unfortunately, despite this movie is around 85 minutes long, it was just too painful to sit through from start to finish, and I had to watch it twice for this review. Sarah says she wants to help Ashe, and he accepts becoming the crow by having a face like him and dressed like him and ride along a motorcycle, while in the first movie Brandon Lee was already the crow from the start of the movie with some flashbacks, which was unnecessary. But 20 minutes into this movie, Ashe becomes the crow, but doesn't fit the role Brandon Lee played in the first movie. Unfortunately, he's dead now, while Ashe comes in and beats up on Curve as he runs while Ashe catches up to him every single time. And I thought, come on, just kill this motherfucker. I mean, seriously. And he asks where Judah is at and shows him a magic trick and burns Curve up, as this motherfucker deserves it. Well, he's not dead yet. And the soundtrack was stupid to put in the background, and I won't put these songs on my music list as they're so bad, while we get another long blonde-haired guy whom I couldn't tell you who the fuck that was. Maybe it was Curve, as this was confusing to me. And I honestly thought Curve was fucking dead, and I guess he got out of it, which confused the crap out of me. Or was that Nemo, who's played by Thomas Jane, whom at some point became the Punisher in 2004, who breaks into the tattoo shop and harasses the owner as well as Sarah, which was a terrible scene to a terrible movie. Nemo goes to a place to masturbate and gets killed, and I thought, oh god, this fucker is asking to get killed by Ashe, which kind of worked for that scene, but it dies down when eventually Ashe kills Nemo, as Curve comes in this scene and sees Nemo's dead body. And this movie is badly shot, and I can't believe after the movie with Brandon Lee not being good enough, the studio decides to make a sequel much worse than the first movie. Ashe goes in a church to see if his dead son is in there and talks with the priest, and I don't get this movie at all, as it's so goddamn confusing. Like, was there a character named Priest, or was it a priest? But anyhow, Judah is shown by Curve Ashe is alive and relives as the vigilante along with his powers, and Ashe comes back to Sarah, and the dialogue was reminding me of the Matrix sequels, where it's super fucking quiet, and I couldn't understand a goddamn thing these fuckers were saying, while Curve and someone hit and a hit woman of some kind drills ink on the tattoo owner's eyeball. And thank God they didn't show that because of my phobia of eyeballs. Ashade says to Sarah he has to find the others and kill them motherfuckers off as he rides away with his motorcycle. And these scenes are badly acted as they're terrible to begin with. Ashade thinks about how Judah got him and his 8-year-old son killed and thrown in the water and came back to life and jumps in the water and gets his son out of the water to bury him next to a lake, while the crow tells him to finish them motherfuckers off while Sarah gets her door knocked on by the bad guys. And Ashay finds she went missing and sees the hit woman and fights on her until he acts crazy and throws the hit woman and picks her up and throws her out the window, and she gets killed like that. And I just didn't buy this sequence at all, as Ashay gets to Judah's club and gets shot but chases after Curve on a motorcycle on the train tracks as Curve almost gets away until the crow locates Curve and shows Ashay, which is dumb enough as it is. Ashay shoots Curve's motorcycle as it explodes, and Curve is down, while Ashay says he's going to die and tells Curve to open his mouth to put something in there so he can die in the river. And we see Sarah captured and put in a room as Judah comes in as the crow shows Ashay where he's located at. And Ashay rides on because he finds Sarah and jumps in the middle of a rock concert parade while the crow is captured by Judah. And Judah prepares to cut it up, and Ashay climbs the building, and Judah is prepared to kill the crow and stabs its wings in order to stop Ashay. And he stabs it in the heart. And Ashay falls down to some flowers, which doesn't make much sense, as Judah drinks the death of the crow, and he hears his 8-year-old son who says if he gives up now, they won't be together. And Ashay gets up, and Judah throws around Ashay as he's become death and almost hangs Ashay to the death as Judah whips Ashay until Sarah escapes from Judah's right-hand woman, and Sarah kills Judah and lets Ashay go, and Sarah gets stabbed in the stomach, and Ashay stabs Judah to the death and tells the other crows to take Judah's life, and they do, and suddenly vanishes to Ashay carrying Sarah back to the church Ashay was at earlier in the film, and he rides along and dies off-screen and joins his son, and the climax was so stupid, it made no fucking sense at all. Now it's time for my rating. I'll give this movie a 2.8 out of 10. The cinematography is worse than the original, and at the same time, Vincent Perez is no Brandon Lee, despite he was terrible in that last movie, but he's much worse than Brandon Lee, as he was iconic, and the acting didn't feel believable whatsoever, as it was sometimes painful to listen to. This was just too painful to sit through from start to finish, and I had to watch it twice for this review. And there were times the movie confused the crap out of me, which was a terrible choice for this terrible, terrible film. As it's confusing enough as it is, the movie is badly shot, as I could barely hear the dialogue as they were speaking a shit ton of mumble, like the Matrix sequels did, as this is a solid non-recommendation for this movie, as the action sequences were terrible, and at the end of the day, I've got a couple more sequels before the remake, as hopefully it doesn't get worse from here. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with The Crow's Salvation, and until then, let's hope this road doesn't go any bumpier.